Should be working. We should be live. Let's see. It says it's waiting. Let's see. Awesome. We got it going. Okay. Do have it going. Let me put some posts up. All right. Well, let me 1 second and then we'll get going. Yo. Let me get my IG story going and then we got this. We're live right now on YouTube discussing the Clippers' horrific loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. Tap in. All right, let's get it started. All right, Instagram post is up. Twitter post is up. Awesome. And here's one more. Once this is officially updated, I will start talking. Okay, it's up. It's up on the Fresh Instagram. I know GG stands up in here, and he's just as upset as I am over this, but 122-97, Lakers win. When did I ever think I would be saying that, especially with no Luca? That game had me wanting to pull out hairs or something. If Lawrence Frank sees this game and thinks we don't need to make any moves, I don't know what to tell you. That was awful effort on both sides of the ball. Way too many offensive rebounds. Way too many 50-50 balls going to the Lakers. I was seriously losing my mind trying to watch that game. And I think you can relate to that too. Here, let me do this. I just made you a moderator, Gigi, by the way, but all right, let's start talking in 1 second. Put phone on Do Not Disturb. And we should be good. That's what I'm saying. It's so annoying. It's so annoying that out of all teams, it's the Lakers, especially when they don't have Luca. I'm used to getting cooked by Luca, but getting cooked by LeBron is something crazy to me. I don't know how else to even explain it. Let's get into the basketball side of this before I lose my mind. James Harden, 7 points today, 2 for 12. Kawhi, 4 for 11, 11 points. Zoo with an awfully terrible game. I thought this would be a game where we would feed him. He would get involved early, and he would be hooping. But 2 for 7 from the field, 8 points. It just was not his best day. And this is a guy who's been, in my opinion, the most important Clipper all year. He got played off the court, honestly, and he just had a terrible day offensively. A lot of no calls that he should have gotten, but even with the no calls, he was just missing some gimmies. And he didn't have the defensive impact he usually does. He wasn't getting the offensive boards like he usually does. It was just a frustrating Zoo game. Chris Dunn, 1 for 5 from 3, 1 for 5, 0 for 4 from 3. And he had 2 fouls early, which I thought killed us. DJJ, great game out of him, 17 points, but another guy who he had 2 fouls early, and those 2 really cost us. It shifted the momentum. And John Conley, you are my number 1 op in the entire sport now. He gave LeBron every call. Both of the Chris Dunn fouls were not fouls. The DJJ foul wasn't. One of them was a foul. But the other one, the swipe, that was not a foul. But, It's just how basketball is. Sometimes you get good refs, sometimes you get bad ones. And it's not even like we had bad refs. It was just the first quarter, the reffing was a little horrid. And I think that did throw momentum off a little bit. Norm, another 20-point game. I don't know how this dude was not given our all-star spot. He has been our best player this year. And James, like, he's been more important than Norm, sure. But he's not efficient enough. And these games, since he had his 40 piece, it's been a lot of the James Harden that I'm not a fan of and that I cannot stand. Lazy defense. Everything needs to be the assist pass. Too much dribbling. And the jumpers haven't been falling all year. He's shooting 39% from the field and 33% from three, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you got to get to the rim sometimes. You have to do more than just shoot the step back, because at the end of the day, you're not a catch and shoot guy. And again, you're not a catch and shoot guy, one. But also, if your step back isn't falling, why are you not attacking the rim? Let me go look, actually. I need to go see how many three-pointers James Harden took today. Because he shot 12 shots. I know he did not make a three-pointer. He had 7 points. I have to go look at this now. 7 points, 3 rebounds, 9 assists. What's your three-point percentage, though? I gotta find this game. Usually I use Real, but I don't think Real has a website. So I'm on ESPN, and you know this takes a minute to do. So James Harden today with a solid 2 for 12 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. Yes, because that's what we need. We need your three-point shooting. Norm should have been our all-star. I don't know what else to tell you. Harden can't play a lick of defense. He was getting hunted today by Braun. It was just annoying to watch. Clip K said, I've been wrong on Norm. Yeah, he's been awesome this year, and he's been our most stable force. Bro's on his 2018 Lou Will arc. I think this is actually a little bit better than the Lou Will arc because he's more efficient. So let's give the Lakers their props. They had a 45-point first quarter. It felt like every shot they took was going in. LeBron, 26, 8, 9, and 3 steals, and that's with not playing majority of the fourth quarter. Reeves had 26 and 9. Reeves has been awesome this year. I'm a very big Reeves fan, and it makes me so happy that he's playing at this level. But now that they have Luca, I'm a little scared for what his role and his fit's going to be. LeBron, most ball-dominant guy in the league for the past 10 or so years, even more. And then you have Reeves, who he's been like their number 2 option. He's been the backup one. He's been the shot creator when LeBron's off the court. And he's been so good at it. And then you bring in Luca, another similar to LeBron type of build, very similar play style. It's a little annoying because Reeves has been that guy. Then Rui, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 threes, a solid day from him. And he played some really good defense today. I'll give him his credit. So when I was looking, I wrote all my notes down with 2 minutes, 50 seconds left. It was 48-34 Lakers in the rebound category, which is just unacceptable. And then in the three-point shooting category, Clippers were at 30.8% from 3. Lakers 51.4% from 3. They had 12 three-pointers in the third quarter. And I heard my guy Stan Van Gundy, one of my new favorite commentators because of the Norm Powell glaze, he was talking about how the Lakers averaged 12 threes a game. And today, they had that through 3 quarters, before through 3 quarters, and like 2.5 quarters. So for me, I'm sitting here thinking, either is our defense that bad, or has Luca brought this black magic that he has against the Clippers to the Lakers? Obviously, jokes, but all these guys are playing to not get traded. They're playing for their jobs. And we just played some terrible defense. We got beat on at least 4 backdoors. There was 1 on Kawhi, 1 on Norm, 2 on James. And don't get me started on James's defense. It's just unacceptable, honestly. Let's talk about Chris Dunn real quick because he's such a good defensive player. He is an all-NBA defensive player. But he has been so bad offensively since the beginning of the year. Started off the year shooting high 30s from 3. Now, since he hit 2 threes against OKC on January 2nd, he is 1 for 21 from 3 cents. And that's with missing the last 7 games. So it's been a hard watch with him. Derek Jones Jr. was also in a slump, but that Boston game is really helping us, just confidence wise, all throughout. Derek Jones Jr., 17 points today. Have to reiterate that. He had 2 threes in the first quarter, which were big. He had 8 points in the first quarter before he had his fouls. Mike Javid said, Harden already on playoff mode. He is already on playoff mode. Lazy defense, too much dribbling, missing every shot. Thoughts on loose switching everything? I'm cool with the loose switch everything when you put the right personnel on the court. Zubats has always been that guy who when we switch everything, he's been the one who's been punished by it. So I'll live with that one. But you see on nights like today that when I've been saying it all year, I've been catching smoke on it. Like Bones Got Busy, for example, big guy on Twitter, one of the mods for Dime Dropper. He calls me out on Twitter all the time because I called Mir Coffee a cone. And that's, I think, Dime Droppers, Atlanta Hawks vlog. You'll see I called him Mir Coffee a cone on January 4th. And that was when he was still shooting 49% from three. Now you look at him, and he's not shooting like that from three, doesn't attack the rim. It shows on days like today that he's not a good he's not a championship level rotational player when he's not hitting shots because he's just not good enough defensively. That's one guy who I'm not okay with the switch everythings. And then Kevin Porter Jr. too. LeBron was targeting him on the switch every time. He's just not, I'm not getting into KPJ. I have spoken on how much I dislike that dude too much. Just dumb basketball player. That's it. And this is one of those games where a guy like Terrence Mann would have been awesome because he plays with energy, he plays with heart, and he's a good defensive player. That's my big thing is if Ty Lue needs to put that ego aside and play Terrence Mann because if you want to switch everything, you can't have Harden, Norm Powell, Amir Coffey on the court together. It's just the truth, and that's what we're doing. But Terrence Mann's only getting 5 minutes. Batum only had 7 minutes in the first half. It's stuff like that where I'm cool switching everything with the right groups on the court. But if not, keep Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Terrence Mann, whoever on him. LeBron was torching us, and the fact that he's 40 years old playing this well just says enough about the human he is. Him and LeBron, 1A, 1B, GOAT conversation, whatever. I always will say Jordan higher. But if you say LeBron, I respect it because they're 1A, 1B in my book. Clip K said, what do you predict the Clippers to do on the deadline, and what would your ideal moves be? And then he said, this game sucks, but this can set the seed to get Lawrence Frank. I would love Lawrence Frank fired. He's done nothing good for us outside of the Norman Rocco deal. But let's talk about the Lakers before I even get to the Clippers trade deadline. I'm watching games like this today, and it shows me how valuable Rui is going to be when Luca gets playing. Luca and Braun will work if Braun is willing to take a backseat because I trust him as an off-ball player more than I do Luca. And the big thing there is you still have Reeves, who's a great three-point shooter. DFS is a great 3-and-D player. I love Dodo. Then a guy like Rui, his shot making is just too valuable to let go of. Dalton Connect is a great three-point shooter, but you still need a center. So Lakers, for their deadline, go get a center. Rob Williams would be sick. You have Gabe Vincent's money. Vando can't get traded either because his defense is too good. And let Jackson Hayes run that backup five. He's a good energy boost to have. But they need to go get a dude like Wendell Carter. Nick Claxton's the most ideal one, but I don't think they have the pieces. Rob Williams is another ideal one. I don't know if they have the pieces. So that's my Lakers thoughts, just because we were just playing them and it came up. And I know Mike Javid up in here. He's a big Lakers fan. Go check him out on TikTok if you haven't already. If you put the ad in there, I'll put it in the description. But for the Clippers, their deadline is so complicated to me because they got Eubanks, so I don't think we're going to get another center. Another guy who Ty just didn't even try playing, especially when we were getting beat on the offensive glass. So money-wise, we still have Terrence's $15 million, and it's pretty obvious that Ty Lue doesn't want to play him. So that's, in my opinion, that's one guy who he's expendable, even though he should not be. Amir Coffey's on a very small deal, but I would sell high on him if we can. He's a free agent, not this offseason, but the following one. I don't want to give him that extension that it's looking like we're gonna give him. Then we traded PJ. So it's like I want to stay below the second apron too. So it's really what are we trying to do here? But honestly, if we want to play the way we played today, Sell everybody. Give Kawhi to the Warriors. They want a star. Kawhi can have it. They can have Kawhi. Curry and Kawhi would be awesome together up in the Bay. If we want to play effortless basketball, maybe it's time to take our star players and sell high on them while we can. Right? Harden, I don't even want to talk about. Like realistically, I don't think El Frank's doing anything. I would love to get another guard, get someone to play off, take over KPJ's minutes, but it just seems like Ty Lue's too deep into that. So an ideal guy for me is I would love Lonzo. I saw today that they want a second round pick for him. Take Bones and Lonzo, take money match. I guess it needs to be more, but it's just like Lonzo's a perfect dude. I like the idea of Ben Simmons as like a backup five, but he's also going to be unplayable, especially with like you saw how the Lakers were playing our non-shooters today, like Chris Dunn, even Terrence. That's a sketchy idea to me. I love Boucher. I like the idea of Boucher, but now that we got Eubanks, it's off the table. We don't have the money for Bruce Brown. Screw it. You know what I want the Clippers to do? Let's go all in on Kevin Durant. Suns are willing to trade him. We'll give you Kawhi. We'll give you whatever else you want. We'll open up a roster spot to give Jordan Miller. I'll tell you that much. But honestly, I just think El Frank's either going to make a desperation trade, like the one he did. I saw you put Eric Gordon's name in there. Like the one they traded with Eric Gordon. He's going to make some form of desperation trade, give up a pick that's going to end up being someone solid, and then we're going to be stuck sitting here in the same situation as we were with Whitmore. Mike said, Clax, I'm going to finish just saying, like, the Clippers, I don't know where they go from here because they're kind of in no man's land where they're too good to be out of the playoffs completely or the play-in. They're not good enough to win a championship. Harden's not good enough to be the second best player on a championship team. Zoo and Norm are awesome, but I don't know. I just don't think outside of our starting five, I don't know what we have. Harden, Kawhi, Zoo, like Harden, Norm, Kawhi, DJJ, and Zoo is a championship starting caliber five. But that bench, like Coffey's so streaky, and he's a cone on defense. KPJ, don't get me started there. Cannot watch another game of that guy. Then you have like Terrence, who can be good. He's a good spark plug. He's a great rotational guy, but we just don't play him. Then you have Eubanks, I guess, who now is on our team, but I don't know if we're going to end up running a backup five. Nico's awesome. Nico's the one guy on our bench who I can truly say I love and that I know what we're getting out of him. And Dunn, he's such a good defensive player, but he's just not good enough offensively to warrant playing as much as he does. He's just not shooting well. I pray he gets out of the slump. So honestly, I don't know what the Clippers would do. I would sell. Me personally, I know we're not winning a championship. Dime Dropper and I have been saying this for 2 years. The Clippers need to sell. Clippers need to trade Kawhi, get some form of draft compensation. Let the young guys like not the Hardens. Please, not the Hardens. Get rid of the Hardens. Like the Terrence Manns of the world. The Jordan, even though he's not young, but Terrence Mann, Jordan Miller, Kobe Brown. Like let these dudes who we've seen sparks out of play next to Zoo and Norm and see what happens. Mike said Clax isn't a good idea in my opinion. I really do like the fit of Clax just because I like the athleticism and the shot blocking ability, and I think he'd flourish next to a guy like Luca and Braun. But like I totally see why you don't like the idea of Clax. It's just to me, like the way I see a big who plays next to Luca is a guy who's much better than Jackson Hayes, but is still athletic as he is. Because Hayes is a solid backup, I guess we could say. He's athletic as hell, and he's a lob threat, but I just don't know. I just don't know if his defense is good enough for him to be a starting caliber on a championship team. Actually, I do know. He can't. It's not, but that's just a weird spot to be in for the Lakers because I don't know how much they're willing to give up. Like a guy like Kessler would have been perfect, but if they were going to get Kessler, it would have been in that trade because the Jazz were already involved. I think El Frank will get fleeced at the deadline. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. He's been getting fleeced at the deadline every year. The same dude who traded for Plumlee, traded Kennard and a pick to get rid of John Wall and get Eric Gordon, who was awful for us, by the way. That's who Coffee kind of reminds me of. Coffee reminds me of 2022 Kennard without the ball handling. He shoots a high percentage from three. He has more confidence, though. Shoots a high percentage from three, but he just is so bad defensively, he's not playable. But Ty Lue doesn't see that. It's weird. If I'm the Clippers, I would soft sell. Me too. I think Coffee could get you a couple. Coffee could get you 2 seconds. I think that KPJ he still has potential, but I just can't get behind that brand of basketball. I think some team would be willing to take a flyer on him. Like even a guy like Norm, as much as I don't want to say it because I love the guy, he's my favorite Clipper right now because Terrence and Jordan don't count. They don't play. But even a guy like Norm, you may have to just test the water, see what you could get for him, see if we can even get better than him, even though he has been our all-star. He has been our best player. But we just are not winning anything this year. Here's what I said about the Mavs trade, and I stick by it. It was dumb for them, both in the short term and the long term, even though they did, in my opinion, get a little bit better for the present. Because regardless of what you do in the West, you have to go against the best defense statistically of all time in OKC. And I think the Lakers, if they have Luca and Braun, and then they go get a center, they still keep Reeves, they have Rui, they have Vando, they have the talent to get by them. But that's it. Like, I don't think Dallas, regardless of how good their defense is going to be, I don't think Kyrie could be the best player on a championship team. AD could be a best player on a championship team. It's just not possible. So my whole thing with the Clippers is let's sell somebody. I don't care if OKC gets a lottery pick, honestly, because we have to think about ourselves, not them. And also, it's like we're not beating OKC in a series. We're not beating Dallas in a series with their defensive intensity. And the Lakers, because they're both going to still make deals. I don't know. I don't think we can beat Memphis in a series either. I know that you watched the Grizzlies a ton because you're a big GG guy. I've watched them. They are a lot better than we are. They're more talented than we are. They may not have a Kawhi because I still do think Kawhi is better than Jaren or Ja, but they have just so many good pieces. Like Ja, Jaren, Desbane, I think I'm taking all three of them over Harden right now. So I don't think we're beating them. We'd beat the Rockets literally just because they're young, but they're a team I wouldn't want to match up with. They would beat us in a 7-game series normally, but I think their youth and their lack of experience is something that could exploit them. Let's see what else we got here. If Kawhi want to retire Clipper, I actually don't mind. If we can sell even get as many. I don't want Kawhi. I know Kawhi wants to finish his career as a Clipper. I know I've defended Kawhi for as long as I have, but I'm so over him. I have been over him for 2 off seasons because as good as he is in the postseason, as good as he is as a basketball player, I'm too concerned with his health. Every time I see him fall, I'm scared he's going to get hurt. He has these stretches like he's having right now the last few games where his jumper looks flat because he's been hurt so much. I just don't know what Kawhi we're going to get in the long run. So for me, if we can sell on a guy who, Kawhi's 30, how old is Kawhi Leonard? 33 or 34? If we can sell on Kawhi Leonard, I would sell on him. Because at the end of the day, he's only aging and he has an injury history. We gave him too much money this offseason, even though he did take a pay cut. We gave him too much money this offseason, and we're not winning anything with him. I've been saying this. The league is euthanizing. That's why the Lakers getting Luca is so nice because they have the oldest guy in the league who's still top 10, but they have Luca who's 25 years old. Our stars are what? Harden's 35, Kawhi's 33. Someone let me know if Kawhi's 33, but I'm pretty sure he's 33. And then you have, Norm's not getting any younger. He's 30, though he's having the greatest season of his career. We've known he could do that. We've known that he's like that. Zoo's in his prime time. He's in his mid-20s. But it's just too old of a team. And you see that on nights like tonight. We look slow. Our rotations look slow. We look slow in transition. It's just the small things. You see the age of this team on nights like tonight. And the Lakers aren't a young team at all. So that's why it was so surprising to me that we were getting run like that and we were so slow rotating. But at the end of the day, when you think of it, K. Dunn, Batum, Kawhi, Harden, these are all older dudes. Norm Powell, Patty Mills, even though he doesn't play. It's too much. I don't want to say washed because outside of Harden, I don't think they're washed. It's too much older talent and in a league that's euthanizing. Luca, Tatum, Wemby, Ant, Shea, our golden boy Shea. Like, bro, they are all young and contributing the way they are. I would sell Kawhi for draft picks. Golden State is desperate to make a move for a superstar. I would call them up, say, if you give me Wiggins, Kuminga, and a couple picks, you can have Kawhi Leonard. I don't even need a couple picks. Wiggins, I don't even need Kuminga. Just give me Wiggins and I do want Kuminga actually. We don't need all the picks. Give me Wiggins, Kuminga, and a first round pick, and you can have Kawhi Leonard. That's to the point I'm at. Go sell James Harden somewhere else. Run Norm, Zoo, develop Kuminga, develop the youth. Because we can't draft anyway, so it's not like those first rounders are going to mean anything to us. Kuminga, on the other hand, we know what he can be. Give him an offseason in LA. Let's see what he could do. You can find some steals every other year. Fire Frank, though. There's steals all the time. Like Terrence, I'd call Terrence and Jordan Miller both steals. Coffee's a steal for an undrafted guy, but it's a matter of you can't be a steal. Like Terrence has been supposed to be breaking out since 2021. Like I love the kid. He's not even a kid. He's 10 years older than me, damn near. But I love Terrence Mann. He is my favorite Clipper out of all the players. Norm's my favorite playing Clipper. Terrence is my favorite Clipper. But at the end of the day, he hit his peak. Like he's a steal as a mid to top end role player, but that's it. Jordan Miller has the potential to be this steal, this 48th overall pick, who, just like that, his scoring ability is crazy. His ability to draw fouls, his playmaking is great for a forward. But, you can't develop when you don't play the youth. And in my opinion, if we really want a hard reset, we should. If we're thinking about it, we should. It's a young league, and we need to see what we get out of these guys who we can consider steals and see what we can get in the drafts in the next couple of years. The least Clippers can do is get my dog, Noah Essengu. I don't know anything about the guy. I know you're high on him. I know he's a European wing, but I don't know much about him, so I'm not going to comment on that. But let's talk the Lakers real quick, just because we just played them. Like, they look so much better than us. Oh, yeah. Actually, before I even talk about that, I cannot believe that Bronny James hit his first NBA 3 on us. Out of all the teams. Now I'm going to have to load up TikTok tomorrow and tonight, and all I'm going to see is Bronny James, first NBA 3. Bronny James checks into the Intuit Dome. Stop. I don't need to see that. Lakers, like I talked about how much I like Rui. I like Jackson Hayes as a backup. I love Austin Reeves. I like Dalton Connect was my favorite player in this last year's draft, so just take that as you wish. But it's just a weird state they're in because it feels like the Lakers don't have a move to really be made, even though they need a center. Miles Turner is too expensive for them. Claxton may be too expensive for them. And it's just becomes, are you willing to give up a Rui? Are you willing to give up a Connect? Because, like, you see all these reports saying that the Luca trade was initially supposed to have Connect and picks as well as Christian AD. That is a haul. I don't know how that guy, Nico, got spoken out of it, like talked out of it, but that's a haul. Like, you look at this Lakers team, right? Right now, they're starting, when they're healthy, it's going to end up, Luca's healthy, it's going to be Luca, Reeves, Braun, DFS, and Jackson Hayes, I guess. Well, it's Rui and Jackson Hayes. With Dodo as your sixth man, you have Gabe Vincent coming off the bench. You have Dalton coming off the bench. Like, yeah, I would give up Turner for a guy like – I would give Rui up for a guy like Turner, but I would not give Rui up for a guy like Claxton or Robert Williams because while they're a difference maker, sure, they have their limits on offense. I feel like Turner is a 3-and-D big man. But his lack of athleticism on the offensive end, that is something that I really don't mesh with, the Luca point guard build. But I don't know. The Lakers are going to have to make a choice here. Are you prioritizing youth and building around Luca? Or are you going win now mode while building around Braun? Because you see these performances like tonight out of Braun, and it looks like it shows he still has it. And it shows that if he keeps playing, If he keeps playing, doesn't retire this year, it's still, they have a chance next year. They have a chance every year because they have Luca. Then you have LeBron as a co-star with Reeves as a third option. That's awesome. Go get a group of role players around them that mesh. You know who I forgot the Lakers have? They have Christian Wood's contract. That is someone they need to get rid of. Christian Wood. Why would the Pacers trade Turner though? Aren't they also? See, this is what's weird to me is I keep seeing reports that if the right offer comes in, Miles Turner is available. But that's what they say every year. Miles Turner is always available. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. Who they go. But like a Turner trade would be packaged around Rui. Turner's making $23 million, if I'm not mistaken. Rui's at what, 16? So then that's Rui, Vincent, and some picks. You probably have to, I don't think you have to give up Dalton. But you're going to have to give up Rui, Vincent, and some picks for Miles Turner. I don't know. The Clippers always linked. The Pacers are in this weird spot where they don't want to pay him. Hey, Zion up in here. That's the boy right there. But I wouldn't give up Dalton either. But apparently there's a possibility because they're contending. Dalton is a high floor, lower ceiling NBA rookie. And he's shown that he's an elite 3-point shooter, but how much better is he truly going to get? Especially, like, I'm a guy who's really high on him, but defensively, he has his woes. If they can give up a guy like Dalton and keep Rui, you have to think they would consider it. Let's think. Because I'm trying to think of the center market, but it's kind of dead. Like, a guy like Boucher is cool. He'd be a good backup center, but he's 6'9". He can't be your starter. Jackson Hayes is not a starting caliber center in the NBA, especially if you're a championship team. Rob Will's always there, but they want an unprotected first-round pick. I saw that today. That's why I was very concerned, I guess. Not concerned, but very concerned that Rob Will can end up stuck in Portland. And you have Claxton, who I love. Love the fit of Claxton. I love the athleticism. But what is Claxton's market? What is this guy valued at? Because he's still making a good amount of money as well, but it's like he's still relatively young, and he keeps getting better. Day'Ron Sharpe, another guy on the board, but another guy not a starting caliber center yet. Like Orlando has Wendell Carter, and they have Badotsi and Mo Wagner behind them. So I'm kind of like, maybe that's the move, is a Wendell Carter move. Like Valanciunas is on the board, but that's another guy, not a good defensive player. He still racks up his stats. In 18 minutes a game, he's averaging 11 and 9. Almost a double-double, but it's like he's so bad defensively. Is that the guy you want as an anchor to your defense? Like Nick Vus, another option. But it's like, what's the market for Nick Vus? Because I saw a report today saying that the Bulls expect him to just be stuck there because the Warriors are so locked in on trying to get KD or another superstar that Nick Vus is like an afterthought to them. And another guy who, while he's shooting 40% from three, has been really good this year, he's just not good enough defensively to be the anchor of a team that Luka Doncic is going to be playing on. Because you have to think, the Mavs and Lakers swapped, right? They traded a top 3 defender in Anthony Davis, in my opinion, a top 1 defender in Anthony Davis. But then they gave up. They got back Luca, who, in my opinion, is a bottom 3 defensive player in basketball. And don't forget, they tried juicing his defense up last year in the postseason. But so now you have to think, Dodo's a great guy to have around him, great defensive player. Then you have a guy like Vando, who's a great defensive player. Christie would have been awesome to have kept, but I understand why a 21-year-old who's elite defensively and has a relatively high ceiling was dealt. Connect's not a good defender. LeBron's a good defender, but not every possession. He takes plays off. Jackson Hayes, I have no comments on his defense because I really just don't get a vibe. Vincent's not a good defender. It's like Reeves is a solid defender, but there's a lot of holes in this Lakers defense. But if they shoot like they did tonight, who cares? Their defense won't matter. But then you play it like, again, tying back to OKC, you play in OKC, and it's kind of like, what are you going to do at that point? So it's a very weird situation for the Lakers to be in because they need to get this defensive-minded anchor at center, but it's a matter of how much are you willing to give up. I think most teams are going to call for Rui, and he's your most expendable contract just because of how much he makes. But that's a guy who I wouldn't want to give up. Dalton maybe gets included in the deal just because he's younger and teams see that he has a higher ceiling. Like they saw what he was doing the first couple of months of the season, but it's like, what more are you going to do? What more can he become is the best way to put it. See, if I was a GM, I just wouldn't trade with the Lakers. And that's because I had to go see them get Luca Doncic for close to nothing. AD is cool, but he's an aging superstar. He's 32 years old, and he's already injury prone. You get Luca Doncic, who's 25 years old, and you're the only team the Mavs talk to? That's a little interesting to me. So if I was a GM, I would put crazy high prices on all my players. As for the Clippers, like back to the Clippers, let's tie it back in here. I was talking to my boss, Coach Chris, one of the real homies, like a brother to me. He was saying that the Lakers should go get Terrence Mann. And honestly, I think he'd be a great fit for you guys too. But if I was the Clippers, I wouldn't give him up. But I do see a world that they do because Ty Lue is so stingy and plays favorites that he won't ever give him a chance. It sucks because KPJ and Amir Coffey are new Reggie Jacksons and Marcus Morrises because the two of them get run regardless of how they're playing. No competitive team should be playing Amir Coffey 35 minutes a game. It's just my thoughts. Let's see, what else we got in here? Man's really overrated, LMAO. I don't know. I think he's a great role player. Clippers fans juiced him up when he had that 39-point game. But he is a very good defensive player, and he plays his heart out. His three-point shot, I don't know. What's he shooting on the year from three? Because he always Terrence is one of those guys who always starts slow, but then about December, he becomes a great – he's shooting 36% from three almost. So it's not like his three-point shot's abysmal. But the thing with Terrence Mann is that he always starts the season slow. He's a great defensive player, but he needs to get his feet wet. That's just how it feels. It's been a trend ever since his rookie year. He starts the season slow and then comes alive as he continues to play and gets his confidence. His defense is elite. He plays with a crazy amount of energy. Like you saw today, there were a couple of possessions where he got us a second. There was one possession in the first quarter. He got us a second and third chance. And he attacks. Like he's very good at – one of the Clippers' main issues, in my opinion, with their bench unit is that they don't have enough guys who attack the rim. KPJ is aggressive and he's a shot creator, but he doesn't attack the rim. He's more of a get-to-my-spot mid-range type of player. And then you have a guy like Amir Coffey, who's a catch-and-shoot guy, doesn't really get to the rim. Batum's the same way. Terrence and Chris Dunn, like, just for some reason, he just doesn't trust his handle. He came out of Providence as a point guard, but he just will not dribble the basketball. But the big thing with Terrence is, like, he can attack downhill. He's very good at getting to the rim and penetrating. So the kicks are there. His float game's pretty solid. The mid-range is a little iffy sometimes, but his defense is always there. He's always going to play his heart out. He gets you extra possessions, and he attacks the rim. He's very aggressive. When he's in the zone, he's very aggressive. He's still a solid three-point shooter. I think that is a guy the Lakers could use off the bench as just a defensive-minded energy guy. Doesn't have to be Terrence Mann. I love the idea of Bruce Brown too, even though that feels so unpredictable, not possible because he's making 23 M's a year. But the Lakers could use a guy like that over a dude like Vincent. Ty Lue's foos gold. You got to go as well. I really do think Ty Lue is a great coach. I think he's a very big ceiling raiser. I think he's a great basketball mind, right? And it helps a ton having Jeff Van Gundy on his sideline. But sometimes he just feels too stubborn with the guys he's playing. Like Batum, I understand he's old, but he's a glue guy. He has to be playing more than 18 minutes, especially in a matchup against the Lakers, just because they're very wing heavy and we're very switch everything. They run a lot of screens. They try to target switches. Batum's a guy who you can't target off a switch. A guy like Terrence is racking up. He's either playing under 12 minutes a game outside of garbage time, or he's just not getting minutes because Ty has this false sense of Amir Coffey's a better basketball player. And Kevin Porter Jr. is going to find a groove. Yes, KPJ is needed on this team. Oh, I hate that I just said that. For the bench unit, just because he's a shot creator, but he's not efficient. He's not a good scorer. He's not a good defender. He's a low IQ basketball player. It's just some of these things that, like, why are we playing this guy over a dude who's going to play his heart out and make the winning plays? Other thing is he's stubborn. He plays his guys, and he's very stingy with the youth. It takes a lot to get a guy in the rotation. Like, I remember Jordan Miller when he was in the rotation. He was solid for most of the games. The last two were a little rough, but you got to expect that out of a guy who's playing his first real NBA minutes in a season. Like, you look at Dalton, he started off the year so well, but he hit a rough patch, and now he's slowly getting back to this catch and shoot, like, great role player sense. But you gotta be able to live through it, and that's something I give JJ credit for. Is he's very trusting in his team, and he treats his team like it's a family, and I love that. You can tell that he's a player's coach. But Ty, on the other hand, like the Jordan Miller argument I was just mentioning, he had a game where post game Ty Lue went on and we won the game. It was against San Antonio. He got on the microphone on the stage and started calling out his young guy for not playing good enough defense and having to do more. Respectfully, the guy is playing, I think he played 11 minutes that game, had 2 blocks, a steal. Like, obviously, a block and a steal don't mean anything. 2 blocks and a steal don't mean you're playing great defense, but it shows you're rotating. Sometimes I think he's a little too harsh on his guys. It's very hard to get into Ty Lue's rotation, too. I don't mind flipping man for like 4 seconds. Trade market can be unpredictable. I'm okay flipping man for the right price because, for me at least, it really angers me to see this guy who I know can be an NBA guy. I know is an NBA basketball player. It is so annoying to me to see that he's just rotting on our bench when he's better than guys who we have. I want him to go get traded to a contender, play elite defense, get stopped, get offensive boards. Just play with a ton of energy. Pick guys up full court. Let's not forget what he did to Luca last year. He kept him crazy and efficient and pissed Luca off. Obviously, Luca just had a bad series. He was missing shots he usually makes. But you got to think that a part of that is based on Terrence's defense. Like, I need this guy to go play for a contender. I need him to show Ty Lue, Lawrence Frank, whoever needs to know how good he truly is. Because though I'm a Clippers fan, I am a basketball fan first. And I love guys like Terrence Mann. Bruce Brown is one of my favorite players in basketball because he's gritty and he's a championship. He makes championship plays. Go look at his Nuggets run. Go look at why he got paid $23 million. They are the same type of player. I don't even want to talk about Terrence anymore because it angers me so much he doesn't play. Too stubborn to not play favorites, then it's time. Yeah. That's the stubbornness is the big thing that annoys me. I think since Lue is under contract, we might be able to trade him for a draft pick. In the offseason, maybe, but I doubt it. I don't see many draft pick trades. Like, is Doc the most recent pick trade? And that was to us, I'm pretty sure. So I don't see it happening. Draft pick trade for coaches, big thing in the NFL. I don't think the NBA is ever going to be like that. This is like, I'm truly at a loss for words over the fact we just got beat that badly by the Lakers. Like, I'm not even upset about it. Yeah, exactly. The last time a coach's trade was a first-round pick, and it was us for Doc Rivers, who we talk about Ty Lue being stubborn. Doc is another level, but he does make adjustments. I will give Doc that credit, but Doc is the most overrated coach in the history of basketball. He lives off of one title. But let's see. Ty, I really wanted to see Eubanks get a shot, especially because we were getting killed on the boards today. And I feel like that's another aspect of the Ty Lue stubbornness. We just traded for this backup center. I want to see what we have in him because though I'm not very happy about the fact we traded for a guy like Eubanks, even though apparently we offered a trade for Boucher beforehand and didn't do so, who is a better center in my opinion than Eubanks. It's just annoying to me that he doesn't even give him a chance. We were getting killed on the offensive glass. I understand that LeBron was trying to target Zoo, and maybe he would have done the same thing at Eubanks, but it doesn't matter. We were getting killed on the boards. But Ty wouldn't change anything. Like the one change he made at halftime was he decided it was a good idea to cut Terrence from the rotation and just go 8 deep with playing, not even playing Batum a ton either. So it's refreshing to listen to this live. I've dealt with some casual Clipper fans. I want to throw away picks and youth for an endless cycle of trade deadline champs, but no good. It's just like how I think is outside of a guy like Kevin Durant being an upgrade, what else can we truly get? We're going to get outbid by everyone because we don't have a ton of tradable draft picks. We don't have many seconds. The stipend rule's kicking us. And we just don't have much to trade. Like, realistically, the Clippers, though I wish they would, will not trade Kawhi. They won't trade Harden. They won't trade Norm. They won't trade Zoo. Or DJJ or Chris Dunn. Or Batum because it's a respect thing. 7 guys. So what are you getting on the market for Terrence Mann? Oh, let's think. What are you getting on the market for Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, Kevin Porter Jr., Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, Kobe Brown, Jordan Miller, Kai Jones? Outside of Miller, I don't think, and Coffey, I don't think many of those guys have much value. I think someone would take a flyer on KPJ, but that's like a second. I think someone would take Coffey. Someone like Boston would give us probably 2 seconds for Amir Coffey. He fits their scheme pretty well. He's a good 3-point shooter, so he fits with them. But it's like, what, even if we got Kuzma, for example, first guy to come to mind, even though I think he's going to be a buck for Middleton. Even if we go and get a Kuzma, for example, and we trade Terrence a first and a second, or Terrence in 2 seconds, how much better is how much better is Kuzma than Terrence? How much is he raising our ceiling or our floor? Sometimes I just wonder what these guys think when they're talking about trade first round pick. I get the Clippers are not good at drafting unless you're the 48th pick, because for some reason we can draft out of the 48th pick. But regardless, if we throw a first round pick, like even for Rob Williams, if we trade Terrence in a first round pick for unprotected first round pick for Rob Williams, how much is that helping us based on the fact we're not going to win a championship this year? We don't have the roster for it. We just don't have the depth. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that regardless of what deals we make, unless we make some crazy blockbuster, which is completely possible since I saw Luca get traded for Anthony Davis, it's just like, what can we really do that's going to help us? And the whole argument about the first round picks and being willing to trade them because it's not like Ty will play them, sure, that's a solid argument. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do when Kawhi retires, Harden retires inevitably? Because how many years do we truly think they have left? I think Kawhi would be lucky to play after this contract ends just because of all the injuries he's had. Harden's not going to be playing forever. He's clearly slower. He's clearly not the player he once was. It's just like, how much better do these guys think we can be? And also, like, what difference is it going to make for us if we trade our first round pick and end up becoming, okay, we get to the second round or we may lose in the first round, compared to, okay, well, with our current roster, we'll probably get the 6th seed or play in one of the two, have a chance at the first round, but we're not going to beat anyone. As I said, the only team that's above us in the standings who I think we could beat is Houston. So Memphis, and think about it, we're going to have to play, regardless of what we do, one of Memphis, Houston, OKC, or I guess Lakers / Dallas / who am I missing in the West? / Denver. Another team I haven't mentioned a ton because they just don't have the roster, but they have the best player in the league, so it's different. But regardless, like, it's just not going to change our ceiling because I don't think we're beating OKC. I don't think we're beating Memphis, Denver, Los Angeles, Dallas. Even Minnesota we don't match up well with. Houston we don't match up well with. It's just not a ton of guys not a ton of teams that we're better than. And trading this first round pick and Amir Coffey for Malcolm Brogdon, Kyle Kuzma, who else has been thrown around? Lonzo Ball, it's not going to change too much. Like you said, we don't have the roster for it. We don't. Norm Powell's been awesome this year. We've clearly overachieved this year, but James Harden's one of the greatest floor raisers of all time. He makes everyone around him a lot better. So that says enough. That's why we're so high with our floor. I've been saying this lately, and it's fucked up way of thinking, but I'm rooting for a losing streak if it makes Ballmer angry enough to fire Frank / I will never root for the Clippers to lose just because I love them too much. But if Ballmer is sitting here watching games like tonight and thinking that we're okay and that Lawrence Frank can continue to sell our draft picks, Ty Lue can continue to just disregard the youth on the team, I question him because I know how much he loves basketball. I know how much he cares and wants the Clippers to be elite, but maybe he just doesn't have the basketball IQ that he gets credit for having. Because not everyone's a Mark Cuban. Not everyone understands basketball that way. At the end of the day, you got to think the guy's a Microsoft guy. He's computers. So how much can he really know about basketball? And what changes is he going to be willing to make over a team such as over a guy like Lawrence Frank, Ty Lue? Honestly, let's just promote Jeff Van Gundy to head coach. If we want to get rid of Lue, Jeff Van Gundy should become our head coach. But that's something that won't ever happen. Ty Lue's a Clipper for as long as we think. Lawrence Frank, on the other hand, I can see him getting fired eventually, especially if we underachieve again this year and he makes another bad trade. Because realistically, we probably could have. I would have taken Boucher over Eubanks. Clip K, let me know what you think, but I would have taken Boucher over Eubanks pretty easily too. Because I saw Eubanks was the only guy on the Suns last year who had a negative net rating when Book and KD were on the floor. And Book and KD being on the floor together was one of the higher net ratings in all of the sport. Ballmer is just that nice boss and people steal his checks all the time. Yeah, he cares. He wants the Clippers to be elite. He wants LA to become more of a Clipper town. He wouldn't have put this much money and this much investment into the Intuit Dome if he wasn't. But he also just isn't a basketball mind. He doesn't have a basketball background. So it's like, at what point do you just say, maybe he just doesn't know enough to make the change, like firing Lawrence Frank, like moving a Ty Lue. We could have gotten Grimes as well with the way. I love Quinn Grimes. I love the idea of Grimes because he's a great 3-and-D guy, and he's still young. Plus, he's on a contract year, so that's why the Mavs had to give up a second. But that would have been a perfect guy to add to this team. I don't know, but again, how much would Grimes have really raised our ceiling? I think the Mavs could have used a guy like Terrence, actually. But Terrence in a second Terrence just for Grimes straight up probably would have been what it ended up being. How much better are we with Quinn and Grimes than we are Terrence Mann? We still have to deal with KPJ every night. We still have to deal with the dumbness of KPJ. We have to deal with the stupidity of Amir Coffey when it comes to fast breaks. The backdoor cuts beating him. It's just some of these things. It's I don't think a deal can really save us. The only deal that could save us is trading Kawhi Leonard for Kevin Durant. And I just said that because I hate Kevin Durant as a person. I would never want Kevin Durant on my basketball team just because I don't like him as a person. But if we can give up Kawhi Leonard for Kevin Durant, that at least gives us a stable first option. Whereas Kawhi, we don't know how long it's going to take for him to really be stable. And like we saw last year, he played 65 games. He had stretches where he looked old, he looked washed. And that's what he's going through right now. He's slowly ramping his body up. But last year, he didn't play in the playoffs. What are we getting out of this guy? Nico Harris, different level of dumb. He would have gave us Grimes in 2 seconds for man. Yeah, he probably would have. I don't know how the guy has a job, but we could have spoken him out of it. Nah, Lawrence Frank couldn't have. Lawrence Frank would have insisted on giving a first for Grimes and I don't even know and Dwight Powell. He would have given up Bones and Man for Dwight Powell and Grimes if he had to. And we all know it, so I don't know. There's not a ton the Clippers can really do, in my opinion. I saw that first game when Kawhi came back, and their defense has been good all year, so I need to cut them a little bit of slack for tonight. But I can only imagine that teams watched how the Clippers were played tonight. A lot of backdoor cuts, and they were caught napping. That's the problem. And then on the other hand, it's you have on offense, you saw them blitzing and Zoo Zoo had no clue what to do in that spot. So it's kind of like what changes can you really make in that aspect? Teams are going to start playing the Clippers like that, blitzing the pick and roll because they realize that Zoo's not great when he gets doubled. You realize that it's stuff like that. It's small things. Trade Man and Miller for Marcus Smart. Lol. At that point, I should just become a Grizzlies fan. Man and Miller are two guys who I love, want to see succeed. Like, put them next to Luke Kennard, who's one of my favorite players. Put them and Jaren, another one of my favorite guys. Like that would be a team I would love, even though I hate Memphis. I'm not allowed to like the Grizzlies, but I would love watching Terrence and Jordan Miller in Memphis, but not for Marcus Smart. He does not help us at all. Most L. Frank thing to do. It is the most L. Frank thing to do is trade Miller and Man for a guy like Marcus Smart, who we don't need when we need front court help more than anything. We need a stable shot creator, and that's not Marcus Smart. I'm trying to think what else we could do. Like, what other guards are on the market who we would want? Like, Bruce Brown's cool, too much, $23 million, and he's not good enough for us, in my opinion. Yeah, Smart has been hot garbage. Yeah, I know. I was looking at his numbers the other day because I was talking to one of my boys up here about who he's a Celtics fan, so he automatically loves Marcus Smart. I was talking to him about a potential Grizzlies Heat trade for Jimmy Butler, which I knew wouldn't happen, but it was a cool idea. I was looking at Smart's stats. I didn't realize how bad he's been on the offensive end of the ball. Like, he's one of those guys, and he's still on a relatively large contract, so you package him with the right guy, Memphis could make a big move, and I hope they do. He went 1 for 11 one game. Okay, so he was like James Harden tonight, 2 for 12. Yeah. I'm trying to see what else. Like, Lonzo's cool. I like the idea of Lonzo, but he's also so defensive minded, so he would fit Jeff Van Gundy's scheme perfectly. But I just don't think on the offensive end of the ball, he's not enough of a shot creator. Like Malcolm Brogdon, while he may be a little worse of a defender than Lonzo is, while he's a worse defender than Lonzo, he is a shot creator and he's a high IQ basketball player. So I would rather take a Brogdon than a Lonzo if I had to choose between a backup guard. Because at the end of the day, Brogdon, he's still a steady three-point shooter. Let's go look at his three-point percentage on the year. Brogdon is 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Ugh, he's shooting 30% from 3? Wow. He's shooting 30% from 3. But at the end of the day, like, the point still stands where it's like, I think that Brogdon's a much better shot creator. What do you think of Jimmy Butler in general, and you think him being a Sun is inevitable? I think that this is the most crybaby thing I've ever seen. Jimmy Butler is a great basketball player. Maybe he feels a little bit disrespected by the fact they didn't put a second star around him. But what stars were there for them to get at any point? They were in on the Dame sweepstakes. They didn't get them. That was the one miss that they had, in my opinion, was the Dame miss. But like Brad Beal, we're seeing what's happening with him. He hasn't helped Phoenix. He doesn't fit well with Phoenix, to be fair. But how much of a difference would he have made for Miami? But then the stuff that really annoys me is the fact that he's sitting here like, I don't want to play for this team. I don't want to play for this team, but I don't want to play in Miami. You can't be so selective. You cannot say you only want to go to Phoenix, especially because Brad Beal has a no trade clause. I know we were talking about it earlier in the year. The first couple of weeks, we were talking about Brad Beal being traded potentially and his no trade clause, but bro, I don't think he's going to waive it to go to Miami. He loves being in Phoenix. He doesn't want to move his family. He doesn't want to move his kids, even though the fans don't like him. The only way I could see Jimmy going to Phoenix is this 3-team deal that's been mocked all day. Actually, it was 3 and 4. I saw both. But a 3-team deal where Wiggins goes to Miami. I don't remember what else it was, but it was Wiggins to Miami with some picks. It was Kevin Durant to the Warriors, and it was Jimmy to the Suns. But Jimmy doesn't want to go play with the Suns if it means he's not playing with KD. He's being very selective for no reason. It's kind of like, what more does he want? Like, who does he think he is? I get he led them to the finals twice. I get he's an all-time playoff performer. Like, he has, I saw a stat, right? Out of the top 10 Miami Heat performances of all time, Jimmy Butler has 8 of them. It's a team that had Dwayne Wade, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway, Shaq, LeBron, Chris Bosh. Jimmy has 8. He gave his everything to Miami. Sure. But you don't get to be this selective when it comes to making a trade. And if you're saying you're not going to play anywhere else, it's just a problem. Jimmy, he's like one of those guys who I used to really like, but this has made me lose a lot of respect for him. It's a lot of crybabyiness. I hope he gets traded to some team that he does not want to go to, because you should not. Pat Riley, I know he won't do it. He should not reward Jimmy for this behavior. Jimmy should not get what he wants for trying to screw over the Heat. Other trade news, like a KD deal would be sick, and I think Phoenix is probably willing to deal him just because the KD Book fit hasn't been seamless. Book is still, they're both top 10 guys, but they don't fit well together in my eyes. Like, too much scoring. Tyus coming in was a great deal. That's another guy who, if I was Phoenix, I would shallow sell Tyus Jones. But it's more so, what are they going to do? Like, what team is going to offer for KD anything crazy? Like, Golden State's going to offer what? Draymond Wiggs, a pick or two. Like, that's nothing crazy. But the market's also deflated right now. Like, what? KD to Houston would be cool, but Houston said that they'd only trade assets if it meant that they could get D-Book. So KD to Memphis is possible, but that means they're sacrificing a lot of depth and Smart, Kennard, Aldama, probably Smart, Kennard, Aldama, Jackson, Gigi, and a pick or two. Like, it's just not worth it at that point. So it's a very interesting spot to be in. I'm trying to think what other big name could get traded. Like I said when the D Fox trade happened, honestly, like I know the Clippers aren't winning anything this year. The one thing that I really do hope the Clippers do, even though it is stupid, I want them to get Chris Paul so badly. Let the guy end his career with the Clippers. He is our greatest player in franchise history. He's going to get his number retired. Steve Ballmer, Lawrence Frank, just bring him home. Let him come. Let's see what difference he can make. Let's see if having Chris Paul off the bench is a good shot creator. Obviously, this is me just being biased because I want my favorite player in basketball. But my favorite player ever, the guy who got me into hoops, the guy I grew up watching. But it's like, what are we going to do? Cam Johnson would be a seamless fit on the OKC Thunder. They need shooting. That's something I'll get into, actually. I'm going to. Once the trade line passes, I'm going to update my whole like rankings of the teams, rank trades, whatever, give my thought process, because I haven't covered Dallas in this at all. And they traded with Luca. But Cam Johnson, seamless fit, because OKC does need an elite shooter. They have Isaiah Joe. They need one more. That's the one part of OKC that scares me, is a lack of elite shooting. Grizzlies fans are all in on Cam Johnson. I'd be too. He's an elite three-point shooter. He can put the ball on the ground, and he's lengthy. He's a 6'8"? It's a dude to be all in on, but I just don't know what his price is going to look like. If I was the Nets, though, I would hard sell. Get rid of a guy like Ben Simmons. Just buy out Ben Simmons. No one's going to trade for him. But get rid of Cam Johnson, get rid of Clax, and see where you go from there. Because you have some young guys. Keon Johnson's still relatively young. D'Lo's going to be stuck there, I believe, because I don't think he can be traded. It's stuff like that. Let's see. Any other Clip K, you got any other players you want to talk about before I end it? Like, Cam Johnson would be sick for the Clippers. We just don't have the assets for him. Like, that's a spot-up guy. He still plays some solid defense. He's great. They want 2 first-round picks for Cam Johnson. That's crazy. With how the market is, there's no way they're getting that, because Luca went for 1, Fox went for 3, and 2 of them are heavily protected picks. So they're basically seconds. There's no way they're getting 3 firsts for Cam Johnson. Let's see. Who else? Let me think who else can be on the move. Chris Middleton for Kuzma seems very inevitable just because all the major sources are reporting they're in conversations. The Sixers, here's what I find interesting. Kenyon Martin was ruled out today because of a potential trade. I want to know what team that was with, because KJ has been solid. He's just been hurt. Day'Ron Sharpe is asleep. I like Day'Ron Sharpe a lot. I just don't know where he truly fits, because I know the Clippers aren't going to trade for him. The Lakers could be cool with him. But I just don't think that he's the answer. They need to get a better big man than that. Yeah, so Kuzma and Middleton trade I think is going to come. So KJ, that was what I was saying. KJ's been good when he wasn't hurt, but then you also have the lens of is Paul George getting shopped? Like Drew Hanlon today tweeted, and I am like the mind blown emoji. Is Embiid getting shopped? Like, what is Philly gonna do? Because they're clearly not good enough to win anything. And they should, in my opinion, build around Maxey, build for the future. Like Hugh Grimes is a great addition for that. But it's going to be very interesting to see. If I had to predict it right now, I was saying it to my boy Nick. Shout out Nick Hara. He's a massive Steph Curry fan. I was saying that I think that the Warriors, what they're going to get so desperate that they take on the 3 more years of Paul George at the $50 million, $50+ million he's making, which would be idiotic. But they're so desperate to put a second star next to Steph. So I could see a world where they strike out on KD and they end up getting a guy like Paul George, for example, even though a guy like Embiid would be nasty. Get Embiid over to the Warriors ASAP. I don't think Sabonis is going to get moved. I think that he's the staple and he's the leader of that Kings team. I think he wants to be there regardless of if they're winning or losing. And I think that he's the perfect guy to have there. Sabonis is safe. Like, they wouldn't have gotten Levine back. They wouldn't have taken on Levine if they weren't still trying to win. Because, look, Keon, Levine, DeRozan, Keegan, and it's Monk. No, Keon's going to come off the bench. Monk, Levine, DeRozan, Keegan, and Sabonis is still a good lineup. Malik Monk coming off, not Keon Ellis coming off the bench. Trey Lyles is a solid backup big. Like, they still have the pieces. So I think Kings are going to stay in win now mode. Hoodie Pop, who's a Sixers fan, is willing to sell Embiid as well. I would just at least think about it because he's missed more games in his career than he's played. He has the MVP. When he's on the court, he is the most dominant force in basketball. But the whole thing is he's just not on the court enough. If I was Philadelphia, I would at least field offers, see what I could get for him. But I know Morey's too stubborn to do that. But also, I would wait till the offseason, actually. Because I feel like you could get more, especially after seeing these Luca and Fox packages. The market is tanked. Like, I'm concerned for what a KD trade would look like, a Paul George trade would look like. Who else is on this market? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see if teams lower their asking prices because it's clear that the market has lowered. Any other player let me keep thinking on players who may get traded. Like, it's clear the Mavs are going to make another move. I don't know what they're going to do, who they're going to trade for, but the Mavs are going to make another move, probably guard off the bench. Though they have, I don't know, what are the Mavs looking like? It's Kai, Clay, PJ, AD, and Lively with Gafford, Max Christie, Spencer Dinwiddie, Najee Marshall off the bench. So that's still a solid squad, but I feel like they have one more move in them too. Lakers, as we discussed, they're still going to make at least one move. Jakob Poeltl, another name to throw out there for the Lakers. Another guy who I could see fitting. I think that if they offer a first-round pick for Poeltl with whatever they give, that the Raptors will take it. So that's another name to throw out there. Then it's like, what is OKC going to make a move? Who else is buying? Like Boston? Boston's probably going to make a minor move. Like, I could see Boston trading 2 seconds for Amir Coffey. Like, that's a guy who I could see fitting in with Boston really well. But Lawrence Frank would never trade him. Memphis probably makes a move for somebody. This is the reverse version of the Gobert trade. Gobert jacked up the market and Luka tanked the market. Yeah, Gobert going for 5 first-round picks jacked the market up. But you know what truly jacked up the market was us. We traded, I would still do this 10 out of 10 times, even with knowing what happens. But Shea, 20 years old, Gallo, who was coming off a great season, and then all those first-round picks, that's what really jacked up the value of first-round picks in the modern NBA. So I think that this Luka trade has tanked it, but I think the value of picks is higher now, because of the CBA. But I do think also that there's just way more talent in draft classes now than there were 5-6 years ago. So I think because of that, teams are valuing these first round picks more than they once did. And the CBA doesn't help, but that's another key factor is it's hard. I think the Grizzlies go for a backup big and some wings. I can see the wings part just because they have so much depth, but it's kind of like, what more? Um, Always make that trade if it's possible. PG no longer in LA, but no brainer. Exactly. It's a no brainer forever because you made LA like the Clippers became a premier trade and free agent destination because of the fact they had two superstars. While they still traded all that for just Paul George on paper, it was Kawhi and PG because Kawhi was not going to sign with the Clippers if they didn't get a star. They had to do what they had to do. Paul George is coming off, in my opinion, the best season of his career. Third in MVP voting, second in DPOY voting. His value was at an all-time high, and we were the ones who shot for it. So what are we going to do about it? Ingram, maybe Ingram. If the Grizzlies, BBJ to the Grizzlies would be hilarious, but Ingram's another guy who I just don't think really has a market because they've been trying to shop him forever, but he's just in this weird boat where he's too good to be traded for like a role player, but he's also not good enough to be traded for as a star. So it's like, are we going to trade? And his health doesn't help, but it's like, what are you going to trade Ingram for? Who are you getting for Ingram? I don't think a team's going to give up a first for Ingram right now. I think that's another guy who's just going to have to be held on to. Grizzlies go for a backup big and some wings. I like Brandon Clark a lot, so that surprises me a little bit. But also, Edey hasn't been good enough, Edey has not been as good as they thought he would be. That was a reach and a half, in my opinion. I said it in the moment. I stand by it now. I don't think he's playable in a playoff series, so maybe another big isn't the worst idea over there. Day'Ron Sharpe would be cool over there because you don't need a star big. Steven Adams, too, which is hilarious because you guys traded him. And then a wing-wise, it's like Cam Johnson's awesome. He's a good fit, but it's like, what other wing is really being traded that's an upgrade over a Vince Williams or a Jeezy? Tonight's loss, better wake these fools up. That was an embarrassment. Rumors are players' heads are on the trade deadline. Well, honestly, these last few games, it's shown that they're just not dialed in. The Charlotte game should not have been as close as it was. We got lucky to have won that game the way we did. The defense was nowhere near trying enough. We just haven't looked like we've been trying. Like that loss to Toronto was so frustrating just because there were so many possessions where we were just not trying to go score, like too much dribbling, defensively not enough rotation. And Toronto was they had their stretches where they were trying to lose. It was just bad basketball. Clippers have played bad basketball their last 3 games. And then tonight, it's like getting beat on back doors. No help. That's what really pissed me off. And I know that Jeff Van Gundy is going to be on their ass about it. They played zero help defense today. There were plays where Norm was denying the corner. This is just the first guy to come to mind. Norm, instead of being in help, he's denying the corner to who was it? Gabe Vincent? LeBron free layup? Like, bro, you got to have your guys back. I will give up, regardless of how they're shooting from 3. Though they were having a great game from 3, you got to give up some 3-point shots because LeBron attacking Zoo, Harden, KPJ, Amir Coffey, those guys stand zero chance. Like a dude like Terrence, a dude like Batum, a guy like DJJ, Chris Dunn, they're better defenders, but you still have to help. Also, Jeff Van Gundy, the Stan Van Gundy just came to my head because I was talking about backdoors, which, yes, it was embarrassing. Kawhi fell asleep, but he called him a complete liability on defense, and I cannot believe it. That was very disrespectful to Kawhi Leonard. Even though he hasn't been as good the last couple of games, and he has looked a little tired and just not into the game, that guy also has not been he's no slouch on defense. His defense has been elite since he came back. Today was the first day where I truly questioned his defense. But that wasn't even – he just seemed so disinterested. That was the big thing. Harden hasn't looked good since his 40-point game. He's been very slow on defense. Harden's big thing is he has very good hands, but he's just not a great defensive player for 48 minutes of a basketball game. That's his problem. That loss at Toronto was a loss I predicted. Early game in Canada, they always lose those. Yeah. They always do lose those early games, but it's just to me. It's more so frustrating because of the fact that Toronto made so many mistakes, and it felt like they were really trying to bring us back into it, and we still lost. And the big thing is Toronto, like their record shows that they only have 16 wins, but they won 8 of their last 10, I think it was, before that game. So they're still a legit basketball team, but they're very raw. And we were more talented. It was just a lot of bad rotations. And, you know, I used to get frustrated when I was younger. I would get frustrated when teams only shot well against the Clippers. And those were in days where we didn't really have that great of a defense. Like this season, our net rating defense, like we're a top 3 defense regardless. But it shows in as I've continued to watch basketball, as I've evolved as a basketball fan, really shows why teams shoot well against these specific teams because of the lack of rotations. And it's the players you play. Like you gotta be aware of what guys can play defense and what guys don't. I probably have another 5 minutes on here just because I got class tomorrow and I'm on the East Coast, so it's 1:49 up here. So Toronto very young, learning how to win a year or two. I agree with this a lot. I really like Scotty Barnes. I like Grady Dick. IQ is a hooper. I like Jonathan Mogbo a lot too off the bench. They have a lot of young pieces. That team, if they stick together, is going to be a threat in the East because they're only going to get better. Their coach is a pretty solid basketball mind from the Euro League. Like that group is very solid. They just need reps and they need them now. So obviously a loss to them, to me it's a little embarrassing just because we are the veteran team. We have the household names, but it's just like for me it's kind of like what are we doing? Damn, I'm in LA. Yeah. I wish like I go to college on the East Coast. I'm from LA, lived in LA my whole life. Like now I'm on East Coast time and my body never adjusted. So it's like I love these late nights being able to just talk hoops. Like this is what I do with my boys. And then we have like tonight, Clippers take this embarrassing loss. So I'm very happy to get on here and rant. Raptors got my guy Orwin Champche. He's going to be a solid big. He's developing in G League right now. How's he looking in the G? Because I was watching his highlights before the draft because I knew you were high on him. And he looked like he had the potential to be a solid backup center, solid center in the NBA, but he just looked a little raw. So let me know. But again, Toronto is one of those teams, if they develop the right way. I will say, it's going to suck to say, but if I'm the Clippers, I said it earlier, I'm selling if I'm the Clippers at the deadline just because we're not beating OKC. That's my big thing. So if you can get rid of a Coffee and Norm, that's all we can do. Like, it's all good, dog. Can't be like Lakers fans talk big shit when they win, but when they lose, have all the excuses in the world. Yeah, we're just not, like, at the end of the day, to me, we're just not a good enough basketball team. I think that we're good enough to get into the playoffs. We're good enough to maybe win one series, but not better than OKC. We're not better than Dallas. We're not better than Denver. And Denver, maybe we have a better roster on paper than Denver, but they have the best player in the entirety of basketball and one of the top, what, is it crazy to call Jokic almost a top 20 player all time right now? So to me, it's like, at what point do we think maybe it's time to sell? Maybe we just get some extra draft picks, some draft capital, maybe a young guy. Just make some form of deal so that we can see what difference it makes. Raptors got my guy. He has some flashes, very good motor and defensively. I like his defense, actually. That's what I really loved about him. I was always thinking that if he just develops a solid post game, he'd be a good center. Not better than top teams, period, when they finish the same way. No chance. Yeah. I just think my big thing with the Clippers this year is that, yeah, they've overachieved. Yes, but you got to also think that Harden has never missed the playoffs in his career. He's an ultimate floor riser. He draws so much attention. This is coming from a dude who can't stand him. They have got a ton of good role players. Derrick Jones Jr. was the best defensive team on an best defensive player on an NBA Finals team last year. Zoo always has shown these flashes that if you get him the ball more often, he could do stuff like this. And then you have Norm, who's just a flat-out hooper. Like, it's a lot of talent on this team. Jokic, great player right now, one of the best I've ever seen. Me too. Like, I was talking to I was talking to someone about the top 5 greatest players I've ever watched live. And I've been to basketball games since I was 4 years old. So since 2010, my lineup would go Steph, Kobe, Braun, KD, and Jokic. And I watched, I guess, Tim Duncan, but I saw the end of Tim Duncan. I didn't get to see prime Tim Duncan, prime Dirk. Like those were dudes I only got to see the end of their career. So for me, it's kind of like Jokic is already in that top 20 to me. I think that lineup is like, I feel so blessed to have watched all of these dudes in their peak. Because like Curry's one of my favorite guys in the NBA. He has been since I was a little kid. But I was never some crazy Curry super fan. Like seeing him at an MVP level, I got to see MVP Braun. Like it's even now, Braun is still absurd to watch play. KD and OKC, and then Jokic. It's funny. The funny part about Jokic is I haven't seen him play in LA because every time I've been to a Clippers Nuggets game, he hasn't played. But I got to see him live in Sacramento, which was so awesome to me. Hats off for you taking your time and doing this live reel. Yeah, I needed this. I needed to just rant a little bit about that loss. So talking hoops is my favorite thing to do. So I'm happy to do that. My verdict on Kawhi is this. If he's willing to take a good pay cut, I'm down to let him retire a Clipper. I'm okay having him retire a Clipper. But my whole thing is if you can get value for him, do it. Because at the end of the day, like we're saying Golden State is desperate. They're calling every team about their star players. If Golden State's willing to give us some picks, Kuminga, we'll take on Wiggins' contract. I'm happy to give up Kawhi just because we have no chance at a championship with a Kawhi-led team. Unfortunate, but it's the truth. He did take a pay cut. Kawhi took a pay cut this last offseason because he wants to win. It's clear he wants to win. And that's what sucks is like I love the guy as a basketball player. I love watching him. But it's just a matter of he just does not. He gets hurt at the worst possible times, and that's what sucks. It's so clear how much he wants to win. He took a pay cut for PG. PG did not use that. Especially because he was always calling out how I'm the number 2 guy, I'm a glue guy, Kawhi's the best, the 1A, whatever. PG didn't do it back, but Kawhi took a pay cut because he thought having Paul George, James Harden, and him would be the easiest way to win a championship, and I don't blame him. But if we can get value for him, I'd do it. If not, I'm very happy having Kawhi retire a Clipper because he's fun to watch. He clearly wants to play in LA, and at the end of the day, when was the last time we signed a big free agent? Never. Kawhi Leonard picked us over the Lakers. What person in NBA history who is a star has picked the Clippers over the Lakers? He put us on the grid. Kawhi Leonard put the Clippers on the grid. That is the only reason that players are willing to come here is because Kawhi Leonard was willing to come here. Take a chance on us. The way you are with CP is like how I am with Kawhi, not going to lie. Yeah, I don't blame you because that's just how it is. So for me, it's like Chris Paul got me into hoops. If he came back a Clipper and retired that way, I would be the happiest man alive, regardless of what happened. Just because that is the guy I grew up watching. He's going to get his jersey retired in the rafters. I'm cool with that. 2021 playoff one was looking real. So Joe Ingles actually has me blocked on Twitter because of that, and what he did to Kawhi. So that Kawhi already had knee problems, but it's more so that was really like the grave being built right there. That's what really sparked the knee problems and ruined them and made them like unhealable. So for me, it's like it's so impressive that Kawhi continues to come back and still be this elite basketball player. And that 2021 run was the closest we've ever gotten to an NBA Finals. First time we've ever gone to a conference finals. And like I give a lot of credit to Paul George for picking up the slack when Kawhi got hurt. But without Kawhi in that first round, we get nowhere. So that's my verdict is Kawhi is still, regardless of what we want to say, he is still one of, if not the greatest Clippers of all time, not just for the basketball aspect, but also for the fact that he is the reason that the Clippers are on the grid and the reason Clippers have any chance of getting players in the future. On that note, I'm just going to recap, say that Lakers loss was horrible. It really showed how old we look as a team. It shows that we need some form of moves. It shows we need a backup center. And it shows that like a guy like Amir Coffey, as good as he's been this year, his defense isn't good enough for us. So I think that this should be a wake-up call to the Clippers. I know the Lakers don't play again until after the deadline, so hopefully they get complacent and just keep their same team. But shout out Braun, shout out Reeves, shout out Rui. They all balled out tonight, but I think that it was more so the Clippers just did not handle business tonight or take it seriously enough. Defense was horrible. Rotations were slow. Lack of help defense. Only guys who really played well were Norm and DJJ. Clippers were probably jet lagged. Yeah, I don't give them excuses for that, though. Professional basketball players don't get the jet lag excuse in my book. But you got to show up. Like, it just showed, it looked like they didn't care about to play tonight. The only guy who played with energy, in my opinion, outside of DJJ and Dunn, were Terrence, and we only got 5 minutes of that before garbage time. So on that note, thank you everyone for popping in, and trade deadline in 2 days. So do we play again? Let me check if we play again before that. So we play Thursday after the deadline already passed. So we'll see after the deadline what we do. Hopefully the Clippers do something, make the team a little bit better, and they don't sell their first round picks. But regardless, let's go Clippers, and peace.